The Spin-off Podcast Network.
This is Kiwi is back for a brand new season with more inspiring kōrero from special guests including rugby player, father and role model TJ Perenara.
My family bring me joy. Rugby brings me joy too, but it's not the same joy as my family brings me.
And global dancer and choreographer Kirsten Dodgen.
For some reason, people think I'm very intimidating.
Listen to the new season of This is Kiwi, brought to you by the Spin-off Podcast Network in collaboration with KiwiBank. Available now wherever you get your podcasts.
Kia ora, I'm Duncan Grieve, founder of The Spin-off. You can help us keep all of The Spin-off's award-winning journalism free for everybody by becoming a member today at thespinoff.co.nz/donate.
Break the news, you're walking out to be a good man for someone else. Sorry, I was never good like you.
Kia ora and welcome to Lord Behind the Melodrama, a track-by-track podcast brought to you by the Spin-off and Spark about Lord's new album, Melodrama. I'm your host, Henry Oliver, the music editor at the Spin-off, and over 2 afternoons in May, I sat in a boardroom in Auckland and talked to Lord about the lyrics, songwriting and production of her new album, hearing the stories and influences behind every song. In this episode, we talk about Writer in the Dark.
Bet you rue the day you kissed a writer in the dark.
That's really intense.
Intense, eh?
Lyrically, there's this real sense of you acknowledging yourself as a writer, as an autobiographer. Most people do write songs that are like sourced from their life in one way or another. What's the writer's life? What's embellished? What do they put in? And there's that kind of looseness that is both a safety net for the writer and for the reader or the listener.
Yeah.
Seems like you pulled that away a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I think life's too short, right, to keep the net around. It was a funny one. I actually woke up in the night and I was lying next to someone, which is a very funny thing to get up and write down when you're not alone. But I wrote that line down of "Bet you rue the day you kissed a writer in the dark," and to me, it's sort of I feel like it sort of seals the story off in that, I think, and I talk about this with my friends who also write about their lives, especially women, because I think that women get way more flack for it. And we sort of, between the few of us, we were kind of we're not, it's not a historical document. It's not a police record. It's not journalism. I didn't go to journalism school. I'm a writer. It's about what I felt. And, sometimes you can feel an element of guilt or oh God, I shouldn't have, immortalized that person. But I guess the song is my way of saying it's what I've always been. It's what I was when you met me. It's what I will continue to be after you leave. That's exactly what was always going to happen when you kissed a writer in the dark. And so I kind of, I don't know, I think that it sort of is a nice thing to hold up against a lot of these very personal songs on the record. But I really like this song. I like where it goes lyrically. And I feel like, especially that chorus.
I am my mother's child. I love you till my breathing stops. I love you till you call the cops on me. But in our darkest hours, I stumbled on a secret power. I find a way to be without you, babe.
Starting with, I am my mother's child, going to, I'll love you till you call the cops on me, and then going to, when it was real bad, I stumbled on a secret power. I'll find a way to be without you. I like kind of ground that it traverses, and feels important to me to say that, in the context of this record. And it was sort of interesting to write it after having moved on from a lot of the stuff and feeling okay, but still feeling like there was this thing that I hadn't addressed, and going there, I think, actually really helped me to let go of a lot of the emotions in the song, because I felt like, I don't know, I wasn't shouldering the burden of them anymore. It is hardcore, but I think it is really difficult to be close to someone who does something like what I do, you know. But I really, I'm not in the business of building treasure hunts to lead my listeners to the real life events behind all of this, because I think like with a song like that, like it's all there. Like it's kind of nothing else that you could find. I mean, it's just they're so stark and they're so like rooted in truth that, like, you know, it's such a complex thing morally to write about people close to you. But I think that, you know, I don't know, I'm just I have to do it to survive, so I just try and do it in as sympathetic way as I can. But also, you know, I think it was really important for me to say that is who I am, and you knew that, didn't you, before you met me, you know?
Yeah.
I like about it.
It's who you are, it's not what you do so much. And it's interesting that you sort of self-identify as a writer. You know, you don't say that you didn't kiss a musician, or you didn't kiss an artist.
Well,
you know,
I am
like,
a writer. I
exactly,
really feel like that's my main, if you ask me what I am, I feel like that is, you know, I am a singer and I am a performer and I am, you know, an artist, but for the most part, I'm a writer.
You're your mother's child.
I'm my mother's child, yeah.
You talked about Kate Bush and Paul Simon and Aldous Harding, and there's a sense in which they use these kind of classical forms in different ways.
It feels standardy, huh? There's an element of like the standard to a song like that.
Which they all employ in quite different ways, from
absolutely.
Paul Simon using, you know, African music, and then Kate Bush using like a lot of classical kind of components, and Aldous Harding using this kind of folk tradition, that you have employed a kind of standard, that sounds like a bad word, but
I think
but
it's
you know,
cool.
standard traditional kind of
I mean,
pop.
like literally like a standard, like Summertime is a standard, you know, there's like certain songs that...
You used that as this kind of platform to write a kind of modern song. I mean, what's that process of taking these forms that are so loved and known,
well-worn,
and making well-worn, exactly, and then but finding a way to make them your own?
Well, you know, it isn't something that I have lent particularly heavily on in my career. You know, I'm not someone who is particularly knowledgeable about music. I very much write from a place of instinct, and so, you know, going to a bit more of a standardized form, and then taking it and making it my own, and saying words like pseudoephedrine, which like would be much better placed in a rap song, you know, like things like that, I find really fun. And also, you know, with a song like Liability, the cadence of that is very much like rap cadence, you know, it's sort of the way it falls and kind of stumbles. That's not particularly traditional phrasing. And so for me, it's about taking those forms that I am so comforted by. They're like lullabies, really, and putting my little sort of spiky bits on them.
This podcast is produced for The Spinoff by Yana Winter and Henry Oliver. Recorded and edited by Yana, with additional recording by Jose Barbosa. Like all of The Spinoff's music content, Lord, Behind the Melodrama is brought to you by Spark. Listen to all the music you love, including Melodrama, on Spotify Premium, free with all of Spark's pay monthly mobile plans. Find more Spinoff podcasts on iTunes or wherever else you get these things. For more from The Spinoff, go to thespinoff.co.nz.
God, these birds are insane. What sort of bird is that? It feels like we're in Australia.
Are you curious about how business can be better? I'm Simon Pound, and I host Business is Boring, a podcast where I kōrero with some of the most interesting people in entrepreneurship, commerce, and making things happen. Tune in to Business is Boring every Tuesday, brought to you by the Spinoff Podcast Network in partnership with Spark Business Lab.
Do you find it hard staying optimistic with all the financial news in the media? I'm Bernard Hickey, and on my podcast, When the Facts Change, I'm here to help you navigate the ever-changing landscape of economics in Aotearoa. So join the conversation every Friday on When the Facts Change, brought to you by the Spin-Off Podcast Network in partnership with KiwiBet.
The Spin-Off Podcast Network.